This first game is the Las Vegas Raiders at the Jacksonville Jaguars, brought to you by Adam Azer. You see here, we're keeping an eye on Darren Waller's hamstring. Adam suggests to start Christian Kirk. We'll talk about that in a second. The DFS play is Evan Ingram. And the top prop to play is Trevor Lawrence over 1.5 passing touchdowns. That's a plus number at plus 110. Also keep an eye on Mac Hollins with the heel injury. That can matter when it comes to the Raiders passing game. Speaking of that, let's start right there, Adam. So we don't know the status of Darren Waller. Derek Carr's been struggling. Davante Adams were starting, but last week was miserable for him. So give me the breakdown of the Raiders, mostly focusing on Waller, maybe Hunter Renfrow, maybe Mac Hollins, and even Derek Carr.
There is no Renfrow or Hollins, really. Hollins would be a desperation play. I actually would prefer Hollins over Hunter Renfrow. I don't know why Renfrow is still rostered in about 60% of leagues. Davante Adams should be fine. I think he was really sick last week. He should be fine. Darren Waller, I don't really want to start him. I kind of want to see one game under his belt before we go back to him. And he's had 2 good games and 2 bad games. But if you have Darren Waller, I guess Isaiah Likely, maybe Evan Ingram in this game you could consider over him. But if you have Darren Waller and he plays, for the most part, you're going to start him. You know, I want to be high on Derek Carr, but what makes me less high on Derek Carr is Josh Jacobs. And they decided about a month ago they're a running team. Throw out last week. Last week was a joke. But they're a running team. If they get the run game going, which they should be able to do, that's 20-plus carries for Josh Jacobs, and that's probably low 30 pass attempts for Derek Carr, and that just hasn't been enough. So I'm going to try to sit him.
Dave, for Jacksonville, it's been very up and down for them recently in terms of their passing game, but Trevor Lawrence has an amazing matchup. The Raiders allow 20-plus fantasy points to every quarterback that they face. Christian Kirk had the game against the Giants, but he's had a good game against the Giants, but he's had just a really tough stretch of opponents. Evan Ingram's coming into a game playing very well. You got Zay Jones, Marvin Jones. Give me the breakdown of Jacksonville's passing game.
So I like Evan Ingram, but it's more because he's a tight end and he's getting around 9 PPR points at a minimum each week. So I'm happy to use him, and I think the matchup's pretty favorable. The Raiders have allowed at least 9 PPR points to a tight end in all but 2 games this year. Kirk worries me a little bit. I like him as a flex, don't like him as a top 24 type of wide receiver because I'm not sure just how much volume he's going to get from game to game. So you'll see him just outside of my top 24. And I'm still a little nervous about Trevor Lawrence, and it's based on what I've seen from him over the past couple of weeks. He's making mistakes that a number 1 overall quarterback and the type of can't miss prospect shouldn't be making. And I know this is a great matchup for him. Trusting him as a top 12 quarterback, I feel like it's a risk this week because I can find other quarterbacks that I feel better about. Justin Fields is one, Aaron Rodgers is one, even Geno Smith I'd start ahead of Trevor Lawrence.
I would agree, but I would actually start Trevor Lawrence over Tom Brady. He's been a better fantasy quarterback this season and he has a better matchup. Adam, just because you have Kirk as a start, give me 30 seconds on why you trust him this week.
6 teams are on a bye, that's part of it. But he's had some really tough matchups, and the Raiders struggle against slot receivers. I think he could have the best game of any wide receiver all year against the Raiders. They haven't given up more than 16.2 PPR fantasy points, but I think that this offense knows they have to get him involved. He's their most talented pass catcher. We heard that from Doug Peterson a few weeks ago. So I just think I play the matchup here and start Christian Kirk.
I would tend to agree, and hopefully this is one of his better games in this last recent stretch of performances. Last week, again, tough matchup against the Denver Broncos. Let's talk now about the Dolphins at the Bears. This one is my game. Thankfully, no big injuries to keep an eye on here, at least as of now. The start or sit play is to start Justin Fields. Again, he's our starter of the week, so hopefully he has another strong performance, back-to-back games with 25 or more fantasy points. The DFS play is Darnell Mooney because he's cheap and hopefully has one of his better games, 3 of his last 5, 12 or more PPR points. And the prop to play is Justin Fields over 49.5 rushing yards. He's been 60 yards or more in 3
slam dunk.
Straight games. Hopefully that's the case because that's why I like him as the start of the week because of his rushing ability. Let's start with the Dolphins and their run game, Adam. So they add Jeff Wilson via trade from San Francisco. That is very interesting because Jeff Wilson was with Mike McDaniel in San Francisco and was a problem once upon a time for Raheem Mostert. So who is the better Dolphins running back and how much do you trust said player against the Bears?
Well, it's definitely got to be Mostert. I think there's a possibility that after this game we're going, Raheem Mostert was the biggest loser of Week 9 because they've got really more of a split. That is possible, but until I see that happen, I'm just starting Mostert, and I'm sitting Jeff Wilson, but rostering Jeff Wilson. And if you have Raheem Mostert, you should know that a running back has scored 17 or more PPR fantasy points against the Bears in 6 of their last 7 games. So he has a good matchup here, and I think he's a solid number 2 starting running back.
Dave, make sense of Darnell Mooney and Chase Claypool because Claypool added via trade this week. We know the Bears hopefully trying to throw the ball a little bit more. That's not necessarily been their MO, but you make the acquisition, give a second-round pick. Maybe Claypool doesn't necessarily make an impact right away, but he might. What's the split between these 2 guys, and do you like one or the other?
I like Mooney more than Claypool, but it's just kind of because it's Claypool's first game with Chicago, and we don't know how much he's actually going to play. But in time, I would expect Claypool to be a reliable short and mid-range target as well as a red zone target for Justin Fields to lean on. You remember earlier this year, it was against the Commanders late in the game. Justin Fields is on target with a bunch of throws to his wide receivers in the end zone, and the guys can't come up with it, including Darnell Mooney. So I think that that's one of their new solutions in the red zone and on gotta-have-it plays like 3rd and 6 when they're throwing. But I still think that Darnell Mooney's got a chance to come through as a number 3 type of receiver this week because he should still be in line for anywhere from 6 to maybe even 10 targets in this game against the Dolphins. That pass rush is going to be on Justin Fields. He's going to run out of the pocket. Sometimes he takes off and gains rushing yards. Sometimes he throws deep. I'm hoping against this Dolphins secondary, it's about throwing deep to Mooney.
Let's hope this is his first touchdown. It's easier to trust him in full PPR than non and half PPR. Adam, the backfield is very interesting for Chicago as well because Khalil Herbert has been outplaying David Montgomery, but Montgomery's still getting a lot of work. So against a good Dolphins run defense, not a great Dolphins run defense, which of these two do you like, and would you trust either one of them as a starter?
Well, their run defense has actually really struggled in 3 of the last 4 games. They've allowed 5.3 or more yards per carry to a running back, and I don't get it because they have 2 great interior linemen. I would start David Montgomery. As Dave has been pointing out, he's the one who gets the high-value touches. He's more involved in the passing game, and he has been used more at the goal line. That's not set in stone, but that's what we've seen so far, so that's what you have to go with. Montgomery's a borderline number 2 running back. I would start Deion Jackson over him if Jonathan Taylor's out.